Welcome, Ray Merriman, US top financial and mundane astrologer, or should I say, welcome to my show, but it's also I'm back home.
Welcome home. It's good to be with you at home again. Thank you for having me on your show. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Ray, we want to talk about the upcoming lunar cycle and beyond, and we want to start with the new moon on April 1st. And I would like to know, Ray, what's your take on peace, war, and money based on the constellations in the sky and the geocosmic correlation to what's happening in the world? And let's start with the new moon. We want to take a look at the new moon chart. And it looks like this. So, yeah. Ray, what can you tell us? What's your opinion on this new moon?
I think the new moon is a good turning point in the dynamics between war and peace. You've got the new moon in Aries, of course, which can be aggressive, it can be assertive, it's a warlike sign. But we're moving toward the more dominant transit right now, which is Jupiter conjunct Neptune. And so I think you're seeing a transition here as we go from Venus conjunct Saturn, which is yesterday, and we're moving now toward Mars conjunct Saturn next week. This is still in the midst of the throes of war. You know, we still have aggression going on. We still have a lot of fighting going on. But in the background, gaining strength is Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces, which is movements toward peace, movements toward resolution, de-escalation, coming to some kind of acceptable compromises, at least for a short time. And I think that's going to continue through April, because at the end of the month, you're going to have Venus conjunct the Jupiter-Neptune, April 27th and 29th, followed by the solar eclipse on April 30th with Venus conjunct Jupiter, basically. So I'm optimistic that the height of the conflict may be peaking here in the next week and de-escalating. I'd be a little bit more concerned as Jupiter moves out of Pisces into Aries. What's that, May 10th, May 15th?
May 11th, yeah.
May 11th. Mm-hmm. Yeah, then we're going to be in for another round of, rhetoric of wars and threats and might. You know, when Jupiter's in Aries, it's what I call the Macho Aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, it's where the masculine energies become very, very strong. So the war is not going to end for a while, I don't think, not until we get to Jupiter in Taurus, which is until May of 2023. But if you ask me what the new moon means, I think it's the peak of the conflict, and it's going to start de-escalating as we go toward Jupiter, Neptune, and Venus, then conjunct Jupiter, Neptune.
Okay, yeah, because I was a little concerned, the new moon is also happening conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, which speaks for, at least this lunar cycle, more pain, more wounds, more...
Yeah.
It can also indicate a healing, though.
Well, it's a healing because there's been so much pain, so much wounding going on, and wouldn't be surprising, be unfortunate, but it wouldn't be surprising if there's another bombing of a civilian center, conglomeration of people that are, in harm's way, like hospitals and things like that. I mean, it's when you get Chiron involved, you're talking about healing centers,
right?
And you got Aries hitting it, so it's attack on healing centers and civilians still going on, even during the negotiations toward peace, which I think may start to set in after next week.
Yeah, okay. And then one other thing that has me a little concerned is the full moon chart, because the full moon will be in T-square to Pluto. Yeah. And Pluto is still where it was when this whole thing started. And so these degrees being activated again, even though at the same time we're having Jupiter conjunct Neptune. So there's a peace, but there's always this. It's still going on. So what do you think? What tops out? Is the Pluto stronger? The full moon with Pluto, or the Jupiter Neptune?
The Jupiter Neptune.
Ah, okay.
The Jupiter Neptune is stronger, and even if you have a ceasefire and the appearance of negotiations starting to go well, there's still going to be interruptions. And
Yeah.
full moons are known to be interruptions, especially
Yeah.
a full moon in this case, square Pluto. So I think there's progress being made toward de-escalation, less intensification of the bombing and the killing, if you will, from the invasion. And we're moving toward de-escalation, but even in the midst of that, the full moon says within a day or two, and that's all it lasts.
Yeah,
It's not
okay.
going to last more than 3 days, 2 or 3
Okay.
days,
Okay.
and then it's over, and they go back toward showing signs of good faith.
Okay. Yeah, well, and that's going to be over Easter. So there's no Easter break in this war. Because these are the Easter days,
The full moon is what day again? April 16th?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the day
that's-
before Easter, isn't it?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and doesn't that kind of make sense that if you're going to upset a community or a country, one way to upset them is to violate a religious holiday.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes par for the course is what we might expect. Easter could be a traumatic time still because of one or two incidences. But again, I feel that we're going on the downslope now of the intensity of the war. Even in the midst of that, you have a violation, but it continues getting better and better, I think, till the end of April.
Okay. Okay, so much for the short term. I'm going to quickly address my people here. Einige schreiben, ich verstehe nichts. Ist ja klar, ich habe angekündigt, wir werden auf Englisch sprechen. Es wird nachher Untertitel geben. Also wer nichts versteht, ist entschuldigt. Ihr könnt dann auch aussteigen und könnt euch das Video anschauen, wenn wir die Untertitel fertig haben. Gar kein Problem. I have an interesting question here. One person wants to know more about the Macho Aspect of Jupiter and Aries.
Well, Jupiter is Zeus, right? The god of the gods, the head of the gods. And he normally rules Sagittarius, which is a fire sign, a warrior sign. And now he's in Aries, which is a warlike sign. So these are masculine energies. We're coming out of a period when Jupiter's been in Pisces with Neptune. And now you get Zelensky coming onto the scene, and people are falling in love with him.
Yeah.
Women are falling in love with him.
Women are falling in love with him.
He's become a sex symbol as well as a
war
hero.
Yeah.
For the Aquarian age. And this all began when Mars and Venus moved out of Capricorn, where they were conjunct Pluto, into Aquarius. We're talking around March 6th, 7th. That's when the tide began to change, and he became a popular folk hero, war hero, if you would. And people are saying, he not only, talks about fixing problems, he's out there trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, he's doing something.
And this is a Jupiter in Aries type of thing. I'm not going to just talk. I'm going to do something about it. And so, whoever is the strongest, whoever is the most macho, if you will, seems to have success. I know we think that Putin has been very macho, but I think Zelensky is coming across as the age of Aquarius, if you will.
Yes,
Jupiter,
right.
Saturn conjunct in Aquarius.
Yes.
Rescuer, if you will, or hero to the new age. And Putin is more the Capricorn.
And he's more old school.
He's more old school, the Pluto and all that Capricorn stuff
Yes.
we did. And that's the drama going on now.
Yeah, right. And Zelensky is the figure, we had this Jesus constellation. I call it the Jesus constellation, Jupiter conjunct Saturn. And that was in Aquarius, and it matches with Zelensky's chart, so he seems to be, the savior.
Well, that's interesting because Jupiter conjunct Saturn in Pisces in 7 BC was beginning of the Piscean age.
Right.
And you had a hero then too. In fact, not just Jesus of Nazareth, but you had a lot of religious leaders were coming onto the scene during the early part of the age of Pisces. And now we're just beginning the age of Aquarius. When we say age of Aquarius, it's Jupiter conjunct Saturn in the air signs. This is a new air epoch.
Yeah, right.
Which is like Aquarius.
My followers know we talked a lot about the air, the Luftepoche. We talked a lot about it, and also with Christoph Niederwieser, who is a good friend of both of us.
Yes.
But let's get back to your, I'm getting into this chatting because it's so interesting, but let's get back to your prediction power, your forecasting power.
Be careful about prediction because I'm not absolute. I've been wrong a couple times.
Very rarely. Yeah, because our part of the question we had already covered. What's your take on how long do you think is this war going to last, and will we going to have peace in the near future, or is this going to last, like you said, it's going to last until...
I think it lasts until Jupiter goes into Taurus.
Which
is May of 2023.
May of 2023. So it's going to go back and forth during that time. So
well, we're making progress, I think, and after next week until the end of April, maybe even through early May, and then Jupiter goes into Aries, and you start seeing a kind of a new theater being developed in this war with Ukraine.
What is interesting, when Jupiter goes into Aries, it will be good for Zelensky's Mars, because his Mars is at 0 degrees of Leo, and it will be kind of reinforced by Jupiter, and Jupiter is going to be in his house of friends. So what do you think? Can that help Zelensky?
What you're seeing in that regard, I think, is already starting to take place. You see the Western powers, you see NATO, you see the United States now finally starting to jump on the bandwagon to support Zelensky. Okay? He's on the bandwagon, they're on the bandwagon supporting Zelensky because they see the tide has turned. Mm-hmm. The world is supporting Zelensky. And I think the Jupiter tri-Mars means that, now they see he is such a strong leader, and he is repelling a good part of the program that was underway with Putin. He's rejected that. He's repelled a good part of that, and he's gaining more and more support. And Jupiter tri-Mars says more and more people probably jump on his side.
But are you not afraid that as Jupiter is magnifying things, making them bigger? In the fire sign of Aries, together with Mars, which will be all June, is there be the danger that NATO will finally step in and that's going to explode the whole thing?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think NATO is going to step in and the war is really exploding. I don't think so. Yes, I understand the Jupiter and Aries concept, but Neptune's still in Pisces too, and I think the Jupiter in Aries is more rhetoric. Yes, you're going to have military involvement, military activity. You're going to see military heroes stepping out here. Heroes are coming out. That's Jupiter in Aries too. But Jupiter in Aries is more talk. Now remember, in the United States, we have an election coming up. Midterm election is very important to us. And I think you're going to see the leading candidates be those who present themselves as bold supporters of a stronger U.S. defense, a stronger U.S. military. I think that's what you're going to see. And the Jupiter in Aries does square the U.S. planets, and it does oppose our Saturn. And at the same time, we got Neptune, still part of a T-square toward Mars and Neptune. So we're really in a kind of a schizophrenic state, a dualistic state where in the United States, there's half of us who really want peace and de-escalation, and the other half wants us to be muscular, wants us to be very, macho. And, those are the two sides of the election that you're going to have to vote on in the United States this year.
Yeah, but for us as Europeans, is there a danger that America does step in the end under Jupiter in Aries, or you say probably not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think the U.S. is going to step in.
Okay.
Biden and his party don't want war. They don't want to escalate it. Yes, he did make a statement, which is typical of Joe Biden and Sagittarius rising, and Pluto pulls his Jupiter right now. He did, make a comment that implied a regime change in Russia, which he backtracked. But I think that is probably in the back of his mind, but I don't think he's willing to risk putting U.S. troops into Ukraine. I wouldn't mind, personally speaking, if he took some suggestions by the Wall Street Journal, where he with NATO would create a safe zone in Ukraine where people in Ukraine could be safe and protected without being involved militarily in war with Russia. I would like to see those kinds of safe zones being constructed. That might be as far as they go. They might put troops over in Ukraine only in a defensive posture. I do not see the United States taking the offense in this war.
Okay, so all in all, we have to, I mean, you say until Jupiter goes into Taurus, May 2023, the conflict, let's say the conflict in different ways will be on the agenda. And
yes, I don't think Russia's going to back out
yeah.
Before then.
Okay.
I think they'll keep, strategically identifying locations and areas that they think is in their strategic interest, and they will continue to chip away and work away at it. I think they have a longer term plan, maybe a longer term shelf life than many people are expecting right now. And yet, I know many people think this could last many, many years. And there's an astrological case for that too, and that's Saturn going into Aries with Neptune in 2025. So if this isn't resolved by end of 2025, early 2026, we could be in this for quite the extent of this decade. So it's my hope, based on astrology, that it starts winding down next week, and it becomes more strategic as Jupiter's in Aries till May of 2023, and then some kind of a settlement is achieved. And we're looking at 2026 when Saturn and Neptune go into Aries. It's either an escalation of this, or there's something else going on in a whole different area of the world that we have to cope with. And it might even be another illness type of a thing, because Saturn and Neptune can be illness. So please don't be too complacent about protecting yourself from contagions for the next 4 or 5 years. This is not going to go totally away with Saturn coming to conjunct Neptune. Saturn and Neptune is more the contagion, more the infection, more the potential for epidemic or pandemic or endemic than we've had. And I know we went through a generational thing. And there's two explanations for that. One is because all the planets are so close together. If you pull up your new moon chart again, you'll see all these planets are within 105 degrees. This is what Andre Barbeau described as tension, conflicts, and potential pandemics. He predicted that in 2012, that in 2020 and 2021, we would have a possible pandemic. And he's right. And these things don't start spreading out until Jupiter gets past Uranus in 2023.
So we have to get used to that the quality of time have changed. It's different now, and we have to be more alert, and we cannot become complacent about getting back to where it was.
And yet at the same time, we have learned so much from both the pandemic and this invasion of Ukraine. We've learned a lot that in both cases, there have been movements that have brought us together as a world community. I mean, how many of us were actually involved in sacrificing our freedoms, our freedoms to movement, to travel, during the early days of the pandemic? We were willing to give that up to try to get control of the pandemic. We came together as a world, not 100%, but over 50%. And I think you're seeing the same thing with the invasion of Ukraine. A lot of people thought this would be over in 72 hours. It isn't. Zelensky stood his ground with Ukrainians. They become admired by most of the Western world anyway. And I think you've seen a unification process, a unity development. This is positive. This is part of the message of all the outer planets, majority of the outer planets, now coming into their waxing phase. They're all passing their conjunction. First time since probably 2020, certainly since 2010, the majority of the outer planets are now moving from their conjunction to their opposition. This gives me hope for humanity. This is growth.
It's like from the new moon to the full moon.
Yes, correct.
So it's building up now, and
it's building up through the remainder of the decade.
That gives you hope that we
that we're moving away from extremism
Okay.
in politics, economics, and even social matters. We've been it's been a us versus them environment with Saturn
Right.
square Uranus and all those planets so tightly together. But as Jupiter starts moving away from Saturn, we're moving more toward moderation, more toward consensus, more toward a slow, moderate pace of accomplishing things. I think this is positive for humanity.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. Okay, wow, thank you for this outlook that goes far beyond that I even thought.
Okay.
And I think it's now time to address the money issue.
Uh-oh. Money.
Because, I mean, we all know, and my following knows, that you're an expert on money and economy. And, you know, people are super concerned about the inflation. And everybody's talking about, is this inflation going to last? Is it going to go up even? Or is it going to come down? And what do we have to prepare for? So can you give us a take on the inflation, how it's going to develop?
There's two astrological cycles dealing with inflation. One, and the bigger one, is Saturn waning square Uranus, which was in effect in 2021. And we have another run of that coming up in September, October, when it gets within 1 degree, within 30 minutes of that square. If you go back 45 years ago, the last time it happened, it was 1975, 77. And that was
the oil crisis, right?
That was the oil crisis.
Right.
That's when oil jumped
Now
from
we're
like
having
the
again an
teens
oil-
to the 40s.
Now we have another oil
We have
crisis.
another oil crisis.
Yeah.
That was also an inflation. It was up, but it had come down from like 8 or 9% down to about 4 to 6%. And then in 1977, when Jimmy Carter was elected president of the United States, a Democrat at that point, inflation got its second gear or third gear. It went all the way up into what, 15, 16, 18%, I think, at that time by 1980.
I remember that very well.
And as inflation went up, of course, interest rates went up. Well, okay, so one thing is Saturn, Uranus, that's inflationary. The other thing is Jupiter conjunct Neptune. If you got inflation growing, then it can grow very, very fast. Okay, so you got Jupiter, Neptune inflationary. You got Saturn, Uranus, the aftermath of that being inflationary. And you got Saturn, Pluto, which was in January 12th, conjunct, 2020. And that goes through 36 years up, 36 years down. We were down for 36 years, and now we're going up for 36 years in interest rates. Why are we going up in interest rates? Because inflation is no longer going to be 0%. It's going up, but it's also the cost of having to pay back debt. Now, if you ask me about the rate of inflation, I think the rate of inflation is peaking pretty soon with Jupiter and Pisces. It will continue going up, but not at the same rate.
Okay.
I mean, we're, 7.9% here. England's at 5%. I'm not sure what it is in Germany, but it's probably...
I'm not sure either.
It's growing.
Yeah.
So it's going to continue to grow, but not at the same pace. It's going to start leveling off and growing less dramatically. And this is going to continue, I think, also until Jupiter goes into Taurus. I think the bigger fear as you get into Saturn moving toward Neptune in 2026 is going to be back to deflation.
Oh.
Okay? And I know I just said Uranus and Saturn can be inflationary, but it doesn't last. I remember the last time, the second leg of it only lasts from 1976 to 1980. I think this is going to last until the election in the United States, next presidential election, maybe to 2025, maybe early 2026. But I think Saturn and Neptune, as you get to 2026, 2028, I think we're back in either no inflation or deflation again.
Okay, so let me sum this up. You think the inflation is going to level out soon? It's not going to go much higher than it is now. Maybe a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
And then it's going to level out in the summer, right? Or
I think you really got to get to Jupiter and Taurus, which is next summer.
oh, okay. So
So we could be, we're at 8% here, 7.9. I think we could see double digits, but I don't think much more.
Oh, okay.
I kind of think somewhere between
But that's-
8 to 11%. That's kind of what I'm looking for, this to level off at.
Okay, but that's gonna kind of level out then, but it's gonna stay there until Jupiter goes into Taurus? Or do you
No,
think
no,
it's
I
gonna
think
come
we'll
back
start
down?
coming down. I think we'll start coming back down toward maybe 4 to 6%. I think
When?
that's where it comes.
That's what everybody wants to know. At what time? This year still, or?
I don't think this year. I think it's more next year, 2023. Yeah.
Okay.
That we start coming back to 4 to 6%. I think for most of this year, we're going to be in that 6 to 10% area.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay, and
But
then.
remember now, we've jumped from basically 0%
Yes, that's a lot.
to 7.9%
Yeah.
pretty quickly since Jupiter
Yeah.
first went into Pisces, which was May of 2021.
Yeah.
So
And you predicted that. You predicted we will have an inflation happening. Yeah. Okay, so we have to arrange ourselves until Jupiter goes into Taurus 2023, and even then it might still be higher, but then you're expecting more of a kind of deflation when we get to
Saturn, Neptune, yeah.
Saturn, Neptune.
And the
okay.
inflation, I
And
mean, the
that'll
goods
be
have gone up, but don't forget wages, they're lagging.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a point where wages are going to catch up.
Yeah.
So the net inflation rate won't be so big. You know, right now net inflation is twice as high as wage inflation. But I think that's going to change. I think wages are going to catch up.
We sure hope so. Otherwise, we won't be able to buy anything anymore. And that brings me to the next big important question, which is about currencies. You know, some friends ask me, can you ask Ray, should we buy gold coins? You know, because people are beginning to think, oh my God, the money is not going to be worth anything anymore, and the money, we can't trust it anymore. So the only thing we can trust is like real gold or silver. So what do you think about that?
As the central banks get off their monetary easing and quantitative easing and zero interest rate policy and start raising rates, that's going to start leveling the rate of inflation, I believe. And it also is going to depress, I believe, the price of gold and collectibles, if you will, and it's going to make cash king. You know, and right now, cash is king. Cash,
really?
Sure, because you're going to be able to as they raise rates, you're going to be able to get money for saving again. Okay, and the money that you're getting for saving is probably going to be more, I think, than the increase that you're going to see perhaps in stocks. I think stocks are going to kind of level off here. I think they're going to be in a trading range, and as the return from stocks maybe, it's been double digits for the last couple of years. As it returns to basically zero, I think it's going to be anywhere from -2 to +5%. I don't think you're going to see big gains in the stock market much after this.
But when you say cash is king, what do you mean? I mean
you
just
save
put
money,
cash in your account, or what? Or just save money on
you
the
save
personal
it and
account?
get interest. You put your money in
Really?
interest bearing it. Yeah, the treasury markets have been hammered, at least in the United States, and I think if you can make more putting money into treasuries than you can in the stock market, that even if rates are going up, bonds aren't going to fall so hard because they're paying more in dividends than you're getting in the return for stock market. Nobody's calling for this right now. I'm calling for it, maybe a few other people.
Oh, that's very exclusive.
But I do believe that the raise of interest rates is going to have several effects. One of them, I think we are going to go into a brief recession before this year's out.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah, okay.
And nobody's calling for that I know of. Very few people. They're starting to call for it, but I've been calling for it for a little while. I think we're going to have a brief recession.
Slow down a little bit for our people to listen.
Okay, I think we're going to have a brief recession. It may only last 1 quarter. Then we pick up again. Supply chains are picking up. But anyway, the interest rates, I think, are going to lead us into a recession. I think in a recession, I don't think that's going to be good for gold. As interest rates go up, I think gold is not the place to put your money right now.
Yeah, you brought us a gold chart. Here, where is the gold chart? Here.
Let's look at the other one, if you would, the monthly one.
Yeah, let me see this one.
This one, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if you can point to C and D, that's the all-time high, 2089.
C and D, yeah, here.
That was the all-time high, 2089, August 12, 2020. We retested that again on March 8th this year, 2078. That's a double top. And my belief is that we're going down now. We're going to go down now where that line is, where that red arrow is.
Okay.
Okay, and if we break that, I think we're going to break that.
You mean all the way go down to 1400 and below?
I think so.
Ooh. Okay.
Now, if you look at this 1A and 1B, you see in 1999 and 2001.
Yeah.
And now go to 2 in 2008. That was 7-8 years later.
Yeah, okay.
Now go to number 3 in 2015. That's 7-8 years later. So 3 of these make what we call a 23-year cycle. Mm-hmm. We're in the third one now. 7 to 8 years after 2015 is, guess what? 2022, 2023. We're due for another big decline like you had in those other two. And I think the third decline is usually the biggest of them all. So that second decline was 45% from B at 1923. B, see where B is?
Yeah.
And you drop down for 4 years to 1045. That's about a 45% decline. Now go up to C and D.
Yeah.
You're going to see a similar thing. It may not last that long. It may only last 1 to 3 years. But you should, as I understand it, you should go down at least 45%, which will bring you back to that 1400 area.
Which means sell gold?
Yeah. This is the time to sell gold.
Time to sell gold. And so
now, if you take out that area,
Yeah.
I mean, it was still some time. You could, until Jupiter and Neptune, you could get another rally. If you can take out 2078, 2089, yeah, you could get a quick pop to 2200, maybe as far as 2500. I'm not expecting that, though. I think this double top is going to hold. So whether it takes it out, you get one more pop or not, or whether that is the high, as I do think you are going to drop at least $800 from the high, which takes you down to in the 1200s to 1,000 area. That's what I'm looking for in the next 2 or 3 years. So I would not advise investing in gold at this time.
And also not buy gold coins. You don't think that's needed? It's because when you said cash is king, I thought, maybe you do want to have some gold coins.
I think if I were you, I'd invest into a community garden so you have food. Gold, who's going to be able to
eat gold?
Who's going to be able to transfer? Just people who have gold are going to be able to trade it, or food. I mean, from a survivalist point of view, you can't deny that having some gold coins or silver coins is probably more practical, except it takes so many of them. You go, where are you going to put them all? But yeah, maybe some coins are a good idea, but I don't think cash is going to go out of style. Yeah. And I really don't think the dollar is going to lose its standard world currency. I know China and Russia are colluding, if you will, to try to bring the dollar into a secondary international standard. I don't think it's going to succeed before 2024. I know with the North Node conjunct Uranus and Taurus, you're going to hear more and more about that, and they're going to move more and more in that direction. But I don't think they're going to succeed and overtake the dollar as a standard world currency.
Okay,
not before 2024 or 2026.
So invest in dollars, currency. Yeah. Dollars.
I think the dollar's the way to be. Buy on the dips.
And how about Bitcoin? I mean, I think Bitcoin is pretty strong. I think all the oligarchs now trying to put their money in Bitcoin so they cannot take it away from them.
It's strong now, and it may continue strong through April. But it has a 4-year cycle too, just like stocks. Okay. And that 4-year cycle is due to bottom late this year, early next year. So I can make a case, and I've been making the case, that Bitcoin could rally to 48,000 to 64,000. It's practically at 48,000 now. Okay. But then I think it's going to drop back down to under 25,000, even under 20,000 by the 4-year cycle later this year and early next year. So Bitcoin's a good place short term, but I wouldn't be holding it. I don't advise at this point to plan to hold it beyond April 30th, the solar eclipse.
Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. And I know that you also study the German DAX. Do you have any ideas for us Germans?
I think German DAX, like the U.S. stock market, I think you're in the midst of a 2 to 6 month rally. Started in February. So that would take you to April to August for a high. If it goes beyond August, this looks real good. But I'm inclined to think you're going to top out sometime between April and August And then I think you're going to trade, I think all world markets are going to fall, 20, 25%. The DAX did fall 23%.
Yeah.
I think it's going back and look at that again next year in 2023, 2024. But I think basically somewhere around 10,000 to 16,000, I think that's your range for the next 2 years. After that, I get really worried because, when the North Node gets to Aquarius and Capricorn, that's usually not good for the world economy. And so I think you're okay to buy 20-25% dips as we just had in the DAX, but you also probably should be getting out every time we get up close to 16,000, 16,500, because I think you're going to trade in that range for a while.
Okay, so that is for the expert. I don't know much about this, but I know that some people ask for it, and I hope that we supplied some good information.
Did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
Yeah, okay, time for some questions now. Many people were just commenting. Well, one people repeated the question because people are worried now about what Joe Biden just said. He kind of aggressively attacked Putin, and people are worried that this may cause the World War to burst out.
Well, that's why I think there's going to be a bit of an escalation the next week. Don't forget, the Mars conjunct Saturn is going to be exactly opposite Pluto in Putin's chart. So I think I'm a little bit worried because that's explosive.
The first week of April is tense, right?
And then he's going to want to sit down and discuss more ceasefire. But I think he's got to do a little payback here. He wants to do a little payback here to Biden's unfortunate public comment there. I mean, people here can understand why he said it, how he feels. Many people feel that way, but nobody wants World War III. Nobody wants to escalate this. And when you insult somebody, that is sort of like, a call to a duel.
Right.
So, and I kind of think you're going to see some pushback from this in next week.
Okay. Okay, ihr Lieben, an dieser Stelle habt ihr jetzt die Chance, noch schnell eine Frage in den Chat zu schreiben. So, let me see. I don't know the English word for Staatsanleihen. Those bonds that you buy from the government?
Treasuries.
So what was the question here? Better treasuries than stocks? Yep. Also, die Frage zu beantworten, also lieber Staatsanleihen als Aktien, okay?
Or if you can get preferred stocks that pay a dividend that is better than the treasuries, that's probably not a bad strategy to go back to now. The bond markets they've been hit pretty hard. In the United States, the 10-year notes did get down close to 120. That's an important support area. So I kind of think you're going to get a little increase here in treasuries, even though interest rates are going up. Maybe that is why, because they're going to be paying a little bit more than the average dividend on stocks.
Okay, here is another
Let me say one more thing, though.
Question.
I wouldn't be jumping into that totally at this point and getting out of your portfolio of stocks until at least the solar eclipse in April, when you get Venus-Jupiter solar eclipse conjunct. I still think the stock market has at least that much further to go, and I think you're going to see it test the highs again. I would do it when the DAX and the dollar back up to their all-time highs or close to it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Then, will the EU get stronger or fall apart?
I think the EU is getting stronger.
Right.
I think this is making them stronger. They need to always be careful, though, because you got so many different nations involved, of letting petty things get in the way of the bigger aspects here. I mean, your bigger goal here is unity. And that's not just with the EU, that's with the United States, and that's also with Asia. Our bigger goal is to get unity, not to create these differences and diversity. You can have diversity within unity, but you got to keep unity as the top goal. And I think the EU must be careful about letting minor squabbles, minor disagreements become magnified and cloud fog up the idea that you're trying to do something for a bigger purpose as a community of people who agree with each other.
Right. And here's another interesting question. What about real estate?
Well, I know the numbers are really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Prices are high, demand is high. I don't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
I really think the way that, at least in the United States, the way the interest rates are going up, I think we're already seeing, it just hasn't been reported yet, we're seeing a leveling off of the demand. People they're backing out of their commitments because rates have gone up. So I think you're seeing a topping process here in real estate. I don't think it'll fall that hard because people still have a lot of cash.
Mm-hmm.
But as that cash dries up, and it will, as the central banks quit being accommodative with their stimulating policies, as they cut back from that, and interest rates go up, I think you're going to see, with the less liquidity, you're going to see less people paying cash for property. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to, if people want to sell it, they're going to have to come down in prices. I think people are probably going to kind of settle. They're going to kind of settle with what they've got, and prices are going to go flat. I don't think they're going to go up much
So in the
longer.
sense of it would not be good as an investment, the real estate at this time. But
well,
if
you're a renter, if you're going to rent,
yeah,
it's always good for that because rents are high, and people are going to need places to buy.
Okay, so if you buy a flat to rent it out, it's going to be good. Okay.
But if you're buying it as an investment because you think it's going to appreciate, and you're not going to rent it, I don't think you're going to get the returns you've been getting the last few, how long? Last 10 years?
And if you just want to buy a home for yourself, is it good for buyers? Or
if you got cash.
If you got cash.
If you got cash and you can afford to buy a house, it's good. But if you have to borrow from the bank, and if you're going through something that's subject to adjustments, not a good idea. Not a good idea probably for the next 20, 30 years, to tell you the truth. It's good to invest as a rental. It's good to invest in something you need to move into. But as far as your own investments, I would invest in yourself. Mm-hmm. In the COVID, we had to work on our own a lot. A lot of us became entrepreneurs, self-employed people. If it's working for you, put your money in your business.
That's a good clue.
That's going to pay you much more in the stock market, Bitcoin, gold, or real estate. Invest in yourself.
Investiert in euch selbst, und wenn ihr es irgendwie machen könnt als Selbstständige, ist die beste Investition in euer eigenes Business zu investieren.
We are a new generation, well not me so much, but the millennials and beyond are a new generation of entrepreneurs. And they are doing really well at figuring out ways to make money on their own without having to go too corporate. That's the movement. Take advantage of that. I will say one other thing that I think is a great investment coming up. I've been a great proponent through my research of stating that Uranus in a sign represents a sector that will explode in prices and then crash. You want to get in the ground floor before Uranus goes in the next sign. Uranus' next sign is Gemini. Mm-hmm. Uranus in Gemini is electric cars. Okay? They're being hit hard. But the low is going to be with Uranus and Taurus. Once we get Uranus and Gemini, my expectation is electrical vehicle companies are going to quadruple in price of their stock. So I would want to be investing in that sector of the economy sooner than 2024.
Good clue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Wow.
All right.
I think we fed the people with a lot of interesting information, and we're going to have tons of work to translate all this into German. But I think the people who are with us right now, 450 people stayed with us. I think they all understood what we were saying, otherwise they wouldn't have stayed with us.
Great.
So thank you for listening and being with us. And now we will have a little more part in German, which is our lottery. And for now, I want to say thank you very much, Ray. But before I let you off, I'm gonna present two more things that are important. one is your homepage.
Oh, yes.
That is very important, mmacycles.com. And this is also available in German with your Swiss partner.
Yes.
And
That's MMA Europe.
MMA Europe. I have a link. Ich habe das verlinkt unten in der Videobeschreibung. And
that is put out by Astrodata in Zurich.
Yes.
Wonderful affiliate. Great partnership we have. And yeah, if you speak German, visit their website every week and you'll get a free weekly column that I put up and they translate into German.
Yes.
If you speak English, go to my website. It goes up every Friday night.
Yeah, fabulous. And you also have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
So that's the Merriman Market Analyst. And your partner, Gianni Di Poce, gives weekly outlooks, right? Every week.
Every week he gives a weekly outlook. Every second week he has a guest. The first guest every month is me. So I'll be the guest this Friday.
So fabulous. If you want to see more Ray Merriman und eben auch auf Deutsch, weil das in der Schweiz auf Deutsch übersetzt wird, dann sind das hier die Links für euch. Und wir verabschieden uns jetzt von Ray und dann machen wir hier noch ein bisschen weiter mit der Verlosung. Okay, Ray, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Good to see you again too.
And I will move to my community now, and maybe if this is going to be a big success, maybe we will do that more often. I think it will be fantastic.
Great. All right.
Okay. All right. Bye, Ray. Thank you so
you.
much.
Dankeschön.